What's good, YouTube? I'm back with another how to play at a high level video. Today we're going to be doing Anubis. I have been reading all the comments. You guys have been destroying that like button and giving so much positive feedback that I really don't know what to say. I appreciate all the positive feedback I've been getting. And yeah, I hope to be pushing out more content like this moving forward. So what we're going to be looking at in this video is what the CT's rotation should look like on Anubis, how the Ts are able to abuse them, and why faking on this map is so strong. So a normal setup from the CTs will generally look like one player towards A, one or two players towards mid, and then two players towards B. One of the B players' jobs are going to be looking at E-box, making sure he has all the information the CTs need regarding E-box, and the other player is going to be focused on B main. Now, a default on T sides for this map is generally going to look like one player over towards B dealing with B control, maybe one or two players over towards mid. You're going to have an A defaulter, and you're going to have someone who controls towards E-box. Now, you usually have the AWPer be the one who controls towards E-box, because if a CT tries to go for a peek on the window, he can try and pick him with the AWP. If a CT tries to peek for E-box, he can pick him with the AWP. So this is generally where the AWPer will stay. Now, if the default is going to be, you know, two or three players towards over here, this is when you'll see teams try to take E-box, and they'll have maybe one or two players walk up, they'll get close, they'll throw a molly off the wall like this, and then boom, you have E-box control, and that's how some teams will take E-box. But generally this stays the same between all teams. You have an E-box player, an E-box support player, a mid player, and a B player. You rarely ever have A defaults, but some teams do have A defaults, which I will explain in this clip. The only thing about a main control is you don't really need a ton of players to take it. You can just do it with a lineup smoke that pops there and a molly that pops here, and then pretty much you have all of a main control. The CTs can't really do anything to deny this. That's why you'll see in pro play there's a designated A defaulter, and everyone else will be working the areas of the map that they want to work within the round that the caller is calling. Now, the reason I explain the T side first is for your CT setups to make sense, you need to understand what the Ts are doing, what control they're trying to take, and where the majority of them are. So most mid players will come out here and start the round by smoking this, and then maybe throwing a nade behind it off the start. This nade will do damage to anyone who's behind the smoke and be trying to get an early fight on mid, or it will just damage anyone who's going for the early boost. Now, it's common practice from the Ts to be able to smoke house, which I'll show you the lineup here. You get in this corner, you aim into the lower third of this rectangle, and you just left and right click jump throw, and then you'll come up to this box right here, aim here, and just normal throw that Molotov. This smoke will land in house, this Molotov will Molotov the doors, and this will take a lot of information away from the CTs. So as a CT, you also have to think, this is probably what I'm going to be facing when the Ts are taking mid. That's why you'll see some players have the A player come over and hold a flash for the mid guy that will look like this. And then when the mid guy wants the flash, once they molly the doors, he will flash. And the mid guy who is sitting here, the molly pops. He peeks with the flash, tries to get an early fight. And this molly is very dependent on how the Ts throw it. Sometimes they'll throw it and it will burn all of this area, but it will leave this back wall safe. Sometimes it will burn into the doors in this back area, but there's a big area here that's safe. And you kind of just have to read what Molotov the Ts are going to throw, what version of it they're going to throw, and how you can abuse it. And building off that concept of the A player coming over to support, he can just come over here, hold this flash whenever the mid player needs it, maybe on like a 5 to 10 second timer. You don't want to leave A too open for too long. And then after that, he can just walk back towards A and play retake from the broken wall position. Now, because the A player was the one who came over to help in mid, that means the second mid player, or the B rotate as the position is called at high levels, will generally be the AWPer, and he's going to shift throughout the map in a way that makes sense with where the Ts are. That's why you'll usually see this third B player or second mid player be the AWPer, because his position doesn't necessarily matter for holding a bomb site or holding mid or holding towards A. His role is essentially dependent on where the Ts are, which means he can get a ton of action and just float around the map depending on what action is going on. Because on CT side, the map can be played with really 4 players denying the Ts information until you figure out where the Ts are. And that pretty much dead space until the Ts are going to hit and execute on you or try and split a bomb site is time that this guy could be running around hunting for kills, trying to figure out the rotates. And this is all information that your teammates can be passing to this role to put him in the right position. There's also an important concept I want to talk about in mid regarding when you want to play retake on mid and where the mid player should go. I played mid majority of my career. Mid is such a fun position to play. You get a ton of action. Pretty much the Ts will try and take it almost every single round unless they're doing a direct sight hit. So you get to dictate a lot of rounds from this position, and that's generally the roles that I would play on my teams. But something that's super important as the mid player is if you're going to play off of mid, let's say you guys are playing 3 towards B, that means you're solo towards mid unless the A player leaves A, which, again, if there's 3 towards B and you're the other guy mid, this guy's coming here, he shouldn't really be supporting you mid for the majority of the round. Like I said earlier, it should be like 5 to 10 seconds. He should just leave like a short gap and then go back to A site to hold it, which means you will then be playing retake in mid for the duration of him playing towards A. And if you're going to be playing retake on mid, please try your absolute hardest to not play from temple. Sometimes temple will make sense. This is temple, by the way. Sometimes that will make sense, but again, if you're playing 3 over towards B, you have 1 over towards A, this A player is not going to be able to hold a mid split, and he's not going to be able to hold an A split, and if they smoke you off in temple, what are you going to do? Your teammate now has to get like a 2k or a 3k to be able to win this round, because if he falls back into heaven to play retake on A while you're playing retake on mid, this is what's going to happen. The T's are going to smoke you off, they're going to run through here, and they're either going to trade out your teammate, or they'll just smoke him off. And then the round is essentially over at that point. There is almost zero way you're going to be able to retake this scenario unless you have teammates on the fast flank. And the reason for that is that you have essentially no mid control. You have almost zero A control, and the chance that a guy on heaven gets a kill on an A split or an A execute from here is extremely low. That's why when you play off of mid, you want to play over towards camera, and you can play some off angle like this. You can crouch duck here, and this is a very hard angle for this tease to shoot. It's pretty common at a higher level, so you might get pre-aimed on this, but for lower levels, this will generally be a free kill, and pros still play this angle even though other teams know about it because it is just a good angle. Another thing you could do is you could come over here, and let's say the T's didn't take A main early, and your teammate has some information on A. Now, what your A player can do is he can play on some sort of angle like this and hold A main. And what you can do as the mid player is you can sit here and you can actually hold mid from here. You can hold all of the mid cross. So you can still play 3 towards B since you have information on mid. So if they smoke you off or you see players running towards temple to split B, you can just tell your B players, yo, they're splitting B. So you still have information on mid here. So you're still technically doing your job. Now, if they smoke temple and they want to try to come A on you guys, you need to make a decision. Now you got to figure out, are you going to fight the mid players or are you going to fight the A players? Because let's think of this percentage-wise again. If you're going to stay in this position and fight the split with your teammate, let's say after you spot that they're coming and he stands up right here, you're probably not going to come out on top of the situation. The T's are going to be coming through a main and eventually they're going to shoot you in the back. And the camera guys are going to have a ton of numbers. You guys are going to be essentially in the open. And the percent you come out on top of the situation is not the best. So this is why you'll see teams make decisions in scenarios like this, where they'll say, okay, let's fight the mid players or let's fight the A main players. Even if it's a bad fight, they will do it just because it is a higher percentage than getting split on. And this is what it will look like from you as a mid player. Let's say they smoke temple and you think they're going to split towards A. You want to make this call to fight mid or fight A main before the T's come into this area. The reason why is because if your teammate's somewhere over here or somewhere over here or somewhere over here, then he's not going to be able to cross towards A main by the time these guys start splitting through camera. So as soon as a smoke goes down on temple, one of the B guys can rotate over to hold the temple smoke, and you guys can just walk in towards A. And even if you are walking into 2 or 3 players in A main, again, this is still going to be a higher percentage than fighting, you know, both areas at once. I won't say it's a higher percentage than fighting for mid because it's situational on where the numbers from the T's are, but I just really want to harp on this because this concept applies to so many maps. For instance, Mirage, you play for mid or you play for A. For Inferno, if you're getting split on B and you're a B player, you choose to either fight the car players or you fight the T players wrapping CT. And for Vertigo, let's say you're a side hall player, you want to fight either the guys running up on site and smoke off side hall, or you want to run into side hall so you don't get shot from the guys running up on site. But yeah, that's it for that concept. I know I kind of harped on that a lot, but it is extremely important. Next thing I'll talk about is shifting the op around. Now, I will say that opping is extremely playstyle dependent. Everyone will have their own ways of opping. Everyone will play different ways, have different comfortability in different situations. But usually how it's used on Anubis is it's used to either get picks or lock down a bomb site. And what I mean by that is if you have a good spawn, let's say for mid, you'll see the opper run up, come over here, and try to pick off anyone on the early peek on mid because the CT will generally get to this angle before the T's if you have a good spawn. Now, let's say they molly you, he'll fall away. If he hasn't shot the op yet, he could stay around towards mid. If he shoots the op, and this is something that applies to almost every single opper's gameplay, if the other team knows where you're opping because you shot the op, you need to reposition if you want to have impact, because all they're going to do once they know you're there with the op is they'll smoke you off, they'll flash you off. If you're playing better players, they're going to make sure your op is going to be useless when they know your op is there. Same thing goes for E-Box. Let's say the opper comes over here and he gets smoked on E-Box, but just before the E-Box smoke pops, he just takes a shot, right? And this is not necessarily bad for him to shoot, even if he doesn't see anyone, and this is the reason why. After he shoots, everyone on the map on the T side is going to know, hey, the op is E-Box, mid or A will probably be okay to take now. You can rotate around, the B main player might hear you, but you can rotate your op all the way around towards A. And you can just come over here. Might be a better rotate to go CT since they won't hear you from over there, but now you can rotate the op in towards A, which the Ts might be walking into now because they feel comfortable to walk into because they heard your op at B. And now within 15 seconds, I've repositioned to over here, which is a likely place for the Ts to peek pretty carelessly because they think your op is B. And what I meant by saying the opper can lock down a bomb site is the op can come over towards A. And again, these are pretty high percentage angles you can get the picks on. If you don't get flashed off, you can play some angles like this. These will generally net you a good amount of kills, or come up towards broken wall. There's just a lot of angles to op on A. That's generally where you'll see oppers anchor. And teams will put their oppers A alone because of the nature of the angles. There's a lot of different ways you can get opening picks on A pretty comfortably. And because there's only one player towards A, this A player, the opper, probably won't need support from the mid player. So you can dedicate 2 players to mid for almost the entire round and guarantee that mid control, which is another way of switching up your CT side to make it unpredictable for the team that you're playing. Now that we've talked about CT side and rotations, I want to talk about T side and how you can get information on rotations to be able to paint a picture of where the CTs are so that you can make a good end-round call. Now, to be able to use this concept, let's break down what a team is. A team is a collection of 5 players that all want to win and all have microphones and all want to tell each other the best ways to win because they want to win. Now, if you have players spread out across the map, and you want to play for information, your B main player can get into this corner, right? And on the mini map, you can see, I can hear any running within that circle. So any running within that circle, this B main player can now tell the caller the information, right? He can just sit in this corner and just listen. And this could be his default. He could go AFK. He could be in the bathroom with his microphone on and just be saying, yo, one's backside on B. Yo, one's E-box. Yo, they're 3B right now. We should probably go mid or A. And that's it, right? So if you get information on 2 B players, and let's say the mid player sees a mid smoke, and then the second mid player on the CTs has thrown a nade almost at the same time as the mid smoke, that's information. Now there's 2 mid. So now you know that there's 2 B, there's 2 mid, there's has to be 1 player towards A, and this is how you read rounds on T side. So now you know how you want to play the rotates, right? If you want to play with the rotates, what you'll end up doing is similar to the way you play with the rotates on Vertigo. You're just going to be faking with mid control. So you can throw this mid control nade like I was talking about. You can throw the smoke, you can throw the molly. After you do this, you can then take deeper mid control. Now, what that could look like is you come over into this back corner, you go on the left side of this little wood, and you aim on the right side of this mark right here. I'll zoom in the video, and you just jump through. It smokes off temple, it pops right here. It's not the greatest temple smoke, but it gets the job done. That's how I do it. And yeah, so basically what this will do is whoever was the mid player over here, so what this will do is it'll force the CTs to make a decision. Do we fall back into A and kind of split up? So we play 2 towards A, 1 guy goes over here because, again, wrapping B will be a threat if you give up mid. Or do we play on mid and maybe I'll play close doors? My teammate could play over here. And now they're committed in mid. And the thing about CTs committing in mid is because of the nature of the way these angles work, this guy is going to be isolated in the back. You can get your opper to maybe find this pick or find the pick in camera. Or you could have a teammate flash right here, and you can clear the close guy if he's here. Again, CTs like to play on this angle. This is where you'd be in the position to be able to get these kills. And this will force the CTs to go into either a 3-2 setup, or they're going to be doubled on mid. Now, if they're doubled on mid again, you can throw an A fake, which will push 1 player over towards A. 1 player will pick up mid or go towards A. Since they were double mid, they'll be like, oh, wow, they're going A. We're going to have 3A. This is going to be a great stack. Nope. You're going to be going towards mid. You'll pick up the kill on the mid guy. Now there's only 2 towards B. You can split B. You can drop canals. There's all sort of ways that you can play with the CT's rotates on this map. And part of the reason why it's so easy to play with the CT rotates on this map is because the rotations are super, super quick. And unless you have taken, let's say, E-Box, the CTs will be running this rotate. So the rotates will be extremely quick. They might not run the rotate in camera over towards A because all of A main can be able to hear that. But for the most part, that stays the same, where there will be one floater on the CT side, and he can get pretty careless with his rotates. That's when you'll abuse him. And now let's say they started 3 towards B, 1 towards mid, 1 towards A, which is what the default is. And again, because that is default, majority of the rounds you can kind of expect that to be what it is. You should be able to pressure off the mid guy with just one set of util if he is solo mid, because again, he has to kind of play towards retake. So then after you take mid, again, if you throw this smoke, it will force a rotate from B. You also have to keep in mind that when you're going to be taking mid, that's around the time that the CTs are going to be reacting with B control. Remember the push and pull concept I talked about on Inferno? That still applies to this map. B regression can come in the form of E-box control. It can come in the form of B main control, B main util, where they try and molly out the B lurk or throw flashes while you guys are working on mid, just trying to isolate the players that are on their own. So while you're doing all this mid stuff, you need to make sure that your whole team is aware what's going on in mid so that they can be aware of the % chance that the CTs are going to push them on their solo positions. Now, if there's a rotate from B that goes towards mid, that means that, again, there will only be one player holding towards B main, or there will be one player holding towards E-box. This is where you'll overrun the CTs. You can throw all this mid control, you can smoke temple, you can throw flashes in house, you can make it look like you're going mid, and this is one of the benefits of Anubis, is this window. This window is so crucial to mid rounding on Anubis, and the reason why is because you can fake a heavy mid control and immediately drop towards B. And because of this, this means that you can be on B within 5 seconds of being in mid. That is like insanely fast. And by the time the CTs realize that you've done this, or the B players call it out, or the mid player realizes he's heard you dropping into the water, you will actually beat out this palace guy majority of the time, which again means there will still only be 2 towards B. That's why you'll see a lot of teams do deep mid controls with a couple people sitting outside B, and then once they get mid control, they'll drop canals, these B guys will start throwing utility, and then you have a good B split going on when there's only 2 towards B, which percentages you should be picking up unless one of the CTs gets a hero play. But this is why this mid window is so crucial to faking on T side for Anubis, because the Ts can just drop and have an extremely quick lane to B, and also if you take mid, camera will allow you an extremely quick window towards A. And if you don't want to play with the mid players rotate, and you want to just fight him when he's alone, and you don't want to push him off with utility, something you can do is, because of the way that CTs generally play mid, they'll throw this smoke, you know, they'll do some sort of flash, maybe they'll nade behind the smoke, but they'll maybe hold for the boost, or they'll be around this area holding the smoke walkthrough, or they'll be playing it from deep holding house, just not trying to die from anyone in mid. How you can take mid quietly without him getting any information if he isn't holding for the boost is you can actually boost your teammate up here, and with this smoke down from the CTs, you can actually peek over it and see if he's peeking house or see if he's peeking this little area towards the door. Now, if you see nothing on this angle, you can just have your teammates walk straight through the right side of the smoke and in towards mid. And as a solo mid player, what this will look like is I have smoked mid now. I have maybe flashed mid, naded mid, whatever I normally do at mid, but the Ts haven't responded by doing anything, so mid is probably not where they're going. That is completely false with this play. This play you'll see a lot of pro teams do. It's so common in the pro scene now that as a mid player, this is something you always have to be aware of. But at lower levels, this will destroy mid players. But yeah, that's probably going to wrap up the video. What we've talked about today is what CT rotation should look like, how to abuse them, how to float the op around the map, and why faking on Anubis is so strong. So if you have any questions, go ahead and join my Discord, which I'll link below. I stream Monday through Friday, 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. If you like the video, go ahead and drop a like and a sub. These videos have been pumping, so I appreciate all the positive feedback I've been getting. I also do coaching on Medify, which I'll link down below if you guys want to check that out. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.